When Love Stopped Breathing. Previous episodes are available on playlist, a link is given in the video description. Episode 6. Chapter 51. She recognized the look on the doctor's face. She had seen it once before. It was clear that she was going to die again. She laid her hand on Damien's fist on the recliner next to her. The guy was so nervous he was shaking. "The disease has come back," the doctor remarked. "Yes, the tumor is cancerous." Lena's breath fled her lungs. "What?" Damien's voice, full of amazement, broke her heart. The last time she was in this same doctor's office, getting the same news, she had a twisted, terrible desire to uncover all the answers and enjoy the chance to die. Lena realized that she was missing that now. Giving forgiveness had made her feel better. Then, after a long adoption procedure, bringing Dave into her life added color to it. Her job also did well. She had finished a few books. Lena loved her life today and everything this lovely planet had to give her. She had a lot to lose this time. And this time, she had to deal with the fact that she was getting less of what she wanted the most. Years went by. From Lena's bedroom window, the water appeared huge. It was big, blue, and never-ending, just like the fight she had been having to stay alive for 5 years. Dave slept soundly next to her, with the window between them. The youngster was fatigued when he got home from school. Lena gently ran her fingers over the silken hair of her tiny child. She thought about how quickly he had grown up as she looked at his sleeping face. When she heard the doorbell ring, she got up slowly and tried to arrange her short hair as best she could with her hands. She liked this length more now, even if they had grown back. When her cancer came back and they started giving her treatment again, all of her hair fell off. She was bald again. But then doctors told her that this time, there was a 98% probability that the side effects of the chemotherapy would kill her faster than the disease. Her body couldn't handle the same stress twice. Even though she was quite confident and worked hard, she was basically out of energy. If she was lucky or obeyed all the guidelines they gave her, like the Bible, they thought she would live for around 5 to 10 years. So, she decided to live without the pain of chemotherapy. She found out that it was Kellen who opened the door. But she wasn't shocked. It was normal for him to show up a couple of times a month. She understood it would be hard for him to get his firm back on track once it went through bankruptcy. But he would still make time to go all the way to Felden from South Hills. "When did you get to Felden?" she inquired, moving aside to let him enter. He went in and smiled at her, but it wasn't a full grin. "Right now," he said. He strolled in and sat down on the couch, and she followed him. "Did you eat lunch?" she said. He shook his head, and she stood up again. "Then let me bring you some food." He quickly said, "No, you don't have to, don't worry." "I'm not going to cook," she remarked as she opened the fridge door. "Damien made enough food for at least 3 days and put it in my fridge when he dropped Dave off." "Is the paperwork done?" Kellen said as he got up and ran to Lena to assist her in heating up the meal in the microwave, even though she didn't want him to. "Please let me," he said. "You should go sit down," she tsked to show her disgust. "I won't die from doing a few chores around the house, Lena," he yelled, stopping what he was doing. His body was tense all throughout. His eyebrows knit together, and a storm descended over his gaze. She didn't think he would take it so seriously. Not only Kellen but everyone around her would go crazy as she said the name of Holy Death. She thought she was that close to the end. "Don't you dare say things like that again!" After he yelled, she looked at him for a little longer than she needed to and then sighed. The microwave made a noise. When they sat down to dine, Lena answered Kellen's previous inquiry about the papers. "It's almost done. Damien and Ashley are going to be Dave's parents. It was the right choice for him to live with them most of the time since I was diagnosed again. Dave will be fine." Lena held her heart and smiled sadly. She could depart in peace since she knew Dave was in good care. Kellen was eating like a robot. He looked down. Lena saw a drop of water run down his eyelid and hover there for a few long minutes before falling where his fingers met the spoon he was holding. She wanted to wipe away all the tears from his skin with all her heart. But she didn't. Most of her preparations were finished. Any day now. Any day. She would be held by the angel of death with its icy, unbreakable grip. She really wanted to live, but she could feel it in her bones that she wouldn't be able to prevent it this time. The roses on her bed were precisely what she wanted. The white sheets and pillow under her were the same color as her skin. She seemed like she was one with the color as she lay there. She was also quite thin. Her lower eyelids looked empty and purple. Her hands were together on her stomach. Kellen saw that her fingers were almost as big as chopsticks. It appeared like she was having a good night's sleep. But was she really? He couldn't shake the startling notion. "Lena, are you sleeping?" he asked out in a quivering voice. He shook her gently and prayed that she would be well. Lena stopped eating this month. She couldn't hold food in her stomach, so they fed her by putting a pipe down her nose. The physicians had told her that her time was over. And even if they hadn't, Lena's state would be enough to infer it. Her condition was becoming worse very quickly. Kellen shook her again. This time, his blood pressure went up because he was stressed. All of a sudden, his eyes were crimson. Oh God! What was he going to do? But suddenly, their eyes opened and blinked. "I'm still alive," she exclaimed in a voice that was nearly too much to bear. He couldn't help but put his head on her bony shoulder and cry. She attempted to call him by name, Kellen, and laid a delicate, icy palm on the back of his neck. "You need to stop falling apart like this. You need to stay strong and go on with your life." After a hiss of his breath in outrage stopped her from finishing her words. Kellen held the bed sheet tightly in his grasp. He couldn't do what she wanted him to do. He could still breathe because he knew that no matter what their relationship status was, he would be allowed to see her again. She had already decided not to be involved with him romantically for an unknown period of time. They would both be on the same planet. But now she was taking him to a place where he wouldn't be able to see her again. And the day when he would finally lose her would arrive, whether it was today or any other day. And then, the day arrived. It was time for them to finally say goodbye, like a calm, cold, black beast coming straight from hell. He could see her fading away through the fuzzy, wet curtain over his eyes. He could feel her skin and bones in his gentlest touch. There was nothing left of her body. And she looked like she had suddenly fallen asleep all of a sudden. He had never heard a softer hiccup than her final breath. He and all of her pals thought it was strange that the clouds had started to rain for a while. Kellen thought about if it had poured like this when she was born. Lena had a strange, fatal connection with rain her whole childhood. She came into his life in the rain and went in the rain. Kellen tucked her in for the last time in his life. He remembered that he had done it years before the mayhem started, when he had tucked her in when she was still alive. His eyes were blurry and wet with thoughts, memories, and remorse. He let forth a scream that shattered his soul. He didn't make any more noise after that. We waste important parts of our life on things that don't matter. What if we knew that our loved ones were going to die soon? The funny thing is that we already know that. At the funeral, Kellen sat silently in a corner. He heard Lola, Ryan, and Damien crying. What was the name of the girl Damien married? Even after trying to recollect a few times by going through his jumbled thoughts, he couldn't. Dave sat down next to him and took his hand. The boy's eyes were big and afraid. Goodbyes and death are terrifying, aren't they? Kellen saw them drop Lena into her grave. He felt like he couldn't breathe and wondered how she was going to live beneath all that dirt. That feeling of being trapped didn't go away after that. He felt empty beneath the starry sky in the deserted graveyard when everyone else went, and he kept fighting everybody who tried to move him from there. Even when Ryan and Damien arrived to get him hours later, he still felt empty. Or did they leave at all? Nothing was obvious anymore. He was glad they left him at Lena's flat. He liked being among her things, her smell, and her memories. People would come to see him. He never spoke to them. They could sit there and look at him as much as they wanted and then go. Then, one day, his head began to feel heavy. He had this awful, throbbing pain on one side of his head and shoulder. He was glad for the discomfort since it let him forget about the reality he was in right now. And the ache continued getting worse till he threw up. His one eye became blurry. He tried to rise up from kneeling in front of the toilet seat after throwing up, but he couldn't move his arm correctly. His tongue even felt like it had turned to lead. He wiped his fingers across his top lip since the wetness was running down his nose. Blood. He was only amazed for a few minutes before darkness took over. Death had never tasted so good. Kellen and Lena had seen all of this before, the brightness, the gorgeous field with so many beautiful flowers, the tranquility, and the relief. She had been here before. She could remember a little, but she couldn't say when. Being here seemed so regular, like she was meant to be here. But it seemed like a dream. She was no longer a child, but she wasn't an adult either. Her body didn't want anything and didn't hurt, and her spirit didn't feel guilty. She was running in a certain direction without thinking about it. But this time, the remote place on the horizon was unoccupied, unlike last time. But she could swear that her child, who she hadn't held yet, and her adoring parents were there. Where were they now? And she was shocked to see that her legs felt like they were made of lead. She couldn't move them enough. At one point, she was so annoyed with how sluggish she was going that she wanted to hurry up. But she didn't even think about quitting. It was all just instinct. Someone else joined her in this annoying marathon all of a sudden. At first, she was scared, but when she saw it was Kellen, she calmed down. He was staring at her, and it seemed like he was grinning like a fool. She turned to look at him. It made her stop moving her feet. But, funny enough, that didn't stop her from going forward. Did they really have to sprint to get where they were going? "Why are you here?" she said in a forceful voice. She was thrilled to see him, but she was also desperate since she had other important things to accomplish. It felt like a tug from something that was stronger than anyone could have imagined. It was like a basic instinct that went beyond any feelings, wants, or memories. Lena didn't know how else to say it. He shrugged. "I don't know," he continued as an afterthought. "But I think someone was nice to me." She frowned and wrinkled her eyebrows. "What do you mean?" He didn't say anything, he just shrugged again. She saw that they were moving forward now and becoming faster. With this transition, the grass, flowers, and light surrounding them started to blur. Even more startling, her parents were now running with them. They didn't say anything, but Lena's mind quickly figured out that they were waiting for them for this moment. Lena's mother cradled Lena's infant in her arms. Kellen was staring at him with interest. A bright white light led them to their goal. Kellen had held Lena's hand through all of this. They wanted to hold the youngster, but they didn't try to. It wasn't the right moment. There was some kind of tight rule in this strange land during this strange period. You could only find lost moments in timelines that were meant to be. Lena felt her mind opening up to a knowledge that had always been there but had always been forgotten just as she stepped into the bright light. Nothing actually comes to an end. They had been freed from their world and were now living in a new one with new names, new destinies, and fresh chances. Lena turned to look at Kellen, who was looking at her. He responded firmly, "We'll meet again," but his voice trembled. She smiled softly and nodded. "And we'll love again. It will be different then," he remarked. "I will be better and smarter, and I will have faith." She gazed at him with hope and affection till she had to strip down for the after, getting rid of all her memories and feelings. They went back to the universe just to be sent back. There was a new story waiting. Still, the curse of the living world was that it would always be full of hard tasks and tests. Because of the decisions we make at certain times, fated circumstances might go anyway. Lola was completely in love with the young child Lena was holding in her arms. Lola smiled and grasped Dave's hand gently. "What a nice blue coat you have on at your christening party. And you smell like ice cream, too. Any girl baby within 100 meters would definitely fall in love with you right away." Dave beamed up at Lola without any teeth, as if he knew everything and more. He peeked over his mother's shoulder. Lena laughed with joy in her eyes. "Doesn't my boy look the most handsome today?" Dave turned his face toward her and grinned like a little boy when he heard her. "Ah," Lola put her hand over her heart. "Of course he is." It had been 2 weeks since Dave was formally named Lena's kid. He walked into Lena's house and changed her life. Lola felt better and happy as she saw how the little bit of a person was gently pushing away all the sadness, worry, and gloom in her friend's life. Another thing that made Lola happy was seeing Lena start to write. Damien had told Lola several times that Lena used to adore writing fiction, like novels, in her notebooks. When he saved her from the street, he found a journal with her things. But all the bad things that had occurred to her took away that creative side of her. It was coming back to life now, like a phoenix. Lena could frequently be spotted writing in her notebook during breaks or free time at work when there weren't many customers in the store. Her face would show a range of emotions, from darkening to playing to beaming. Lola had secretly read a page or two while Lena went to the bathroom one day, just out of pure curiosity. She had started to weep. She made up her mind that she would always be there for Lena while she worked on her art. She still wouldn't read Lena's work again since the love, devastation, and heartache she wrote about were so real and powerful that they might destroy anyone's heart. Lola didn't like to suffer or feel sad things in life. She had a purpose for keeping a knife in her bra. If someone threatened her, they may get stabbed. People today don't realize how much they damage others unless they are wounded in the same way. It's as easy as that, suffering for pain. Lola had a good life because she followed her own ideals. The happy music in the background made the night feel happy. People were rushing up to welcome the little star of the party and wish them well. Damien stepped over to stand with them and said, "Lena, Lola." And little man, with a big smile on his face. Lena said, "I told you to come early." Lola said, "I asked him to give me a ride." Whoa! Hey, hey, Damien stepped back abruptly. "Calm down, angry women. The thing is, a last-minute meeting came up. I didn't even have time to text you the details except to cancel that lift," he continued, staring at Lola. "And I'm sorry for that." Lena seemed thrilled. "A new deal. Good job, Dammy boy." Lola clapped him on the shoulder. Damien jumped. She may have put a little more effort into that apparent act of praise. "No, it's not a deal," he said, shaking his head and smiling. And then they said, "For the first time ever, a top advertising agency is going to make an ad for us." "Really? That's great. Whoa. Oh my god." At the same time, Lena and Lola shrieked with joy. Dave lifted his small hands over his head and yelled, joining in on such an important and happy topic. Lola said, "What agency is it?" "Chimera," Damien said, his eyes shining. "Chimera." Lena's brows wrinkled in profound contemplation. She looked like she was searching her memory for knowledge. "You've heard of them, right? They're that well known. And they only pick businesses that look like they have a lot of potential." Lena's eyes suddenly got bigger. "Oh, I've worked with them before, not just heard about them." "What? What?" Now it was Damien and Lola's turn to shout at the same time. "I modeled in one of their ads," Lena said, appearing a little apprehensive. She blinked, turned aside, and embraced Dave tighter. "You used to be a model." Lola couldn't help but say. "It seemed like someone had let me down." She had a buddy who was good at a lot of things, but he never told her about any of them. How many additional skills did Lena have? "Really? Ah, it's not like that, actually," Lena said with a giggle that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I wasn't a professional model. I just had to stand in front of the camera once and go through an experience I'll never forget." Anyway, she immediately shifted the subject. "Chimera has really great people working for them, which is why they are so successful. I'm so happy for you, Damien. You deserve the best." Damien smiled and nodded. "But not what I want the most." Lola's face wrinkled in surprise. Why did it seem like she was missing out on some important information? What did Damien want the most? What did he never get? Why was he so vague? Lena looked a little surprised and moved Dave to her other hip. Then she looked at the time on her watch. We should cut the cake now. Then she went to the hall to get the cake. Lola looked at Damien and gave him a hard look. What? Damien said, moving his feet and looking at Lola with an uncomfortable look on his face. Lola instantly grabbed his tie and pulled him toward her. Tell me what I don't know. Damien jumped. How can I know what you don't know? Lola was quite angry. Are you kidding me? You put hints in your answer to Lena. Damien grinned, but he was nervous. I don't know what you're talking about. Look over there, we're missing out on Dave's greedy attempts to reach that cake. I need to click some photos of this moment to show his future bride. Let's go, and he successfully ripped his tie out of Lola's stone hold after absurdly failing twice. Don't you dare run, Lola said, and then she quickly turned around to catch Damien, but someone grabbed her arm and stopped her. Hey, crazy woman, a man's voice questioned. Why are you trying to find that poor guy? What did he do to you? His voice was rough and warm, much like his touch. Lola looked down and back at the long fingers that were curled around her thin arm. The man wore a silver watch on his wrist. She looked up at his face as the hand moved higher. Ryan. Damien started to fade from her memory. What are you doing here? Ryan lifted his eyebrow, which made a line on one side of his forehead. It's my best friend's party, he said without any emotion. And I've known her longer than you have. Why shouldn't I be at this party? Lola muttered, that's not what I meant. You went back to Brooklyn. I can always come back when I want to, he said with a big smile. Felden is not anyone's father's property. Lola laughed. So, he was giving her what she wanted, in her own words. What a cheap jerk. While they were cutting the cake, Dave took a handful of cream before Lena could stop him. Oh no! Oh no! Lena said. But everyone else appeared quite happy. They smiled, clapped their hands, and sang a baptism hymn that they had written and practiced ahead of time. Even though Lola told them not to apply makeup with the cake instead of eating it, a too eager, half-drunk employee from the shop placed the cream on Lena's face nevertheless. Lola was really angry. She quickly brought things back in order by pulling the worker by the shoulder. Ryan's voice said, "There's no need to be so violent. That's how you set up law and order, you idiot," she shot back. They laughed at the answer. Lola ran to the bathroom right away to wash her hands because the employee had been sweating a lot. But when she got there, Lena was already there at the sink, of course, to wipe the cream. But why was she clutching onto the sink like her life depended on it? And why did she appear so pale and like she was about to pass out? What's wrong, Lena? Lola quickly ran to her friend's side. She had seen Lena like this enough times that she didn't want to remember them. That was a path she didn't want to travel down, like a nightmare. It's nothing, Lena had the nerve to remark. She was even sweating a lot. Lola quickly took her scarf out of her bag and held it under the cool tap water. Then she rubbed the wet scarf against Lena's forehead and the back of her neck. Lena sighed and said, it feels good. I'm feeling better already. Let's see the doctor, Lola said. What? No. The party F the party. Lola was really angry. Don't tell me otherwise, your health comes first. Lena laughed. I'm simply saying that we don't need to spoil the celebration because I have an appointment with Dr. Robert the day after tomorrow. Also, this event must be what happened when I took one of those pills I had to take every day a few hours ago. Why would you get sick from taking the medicine you're supposed to take every day? Lola was completely lost. Because I did what the instructions said not to do and took it on an empty stomach. Selene put her hands together and slapped them together in a mocking way as if the sky had suddenly become gloomy. Wow! Wow! Why would you do something like that? She said in anger. Forgot to eat because I was so excited about getting ready for the party. It was obviously an explanation that couldn't be expected. So Lola yelled at her some more and told her to eat supper right after she got out of the bathroom. The party went well, with Damien and Ryan stepping up to take over the major roles from Dave. Before she left the party hall, Lola made sure Lena was feeling better. Stay a little longer, Lena said. Lola shook her head. I would have, for sure. But I have to get on a bus before daybreak and head to town tomorrow. We need to get ready for the audit of the making of our handcrafted clothes. Lena knew what Lola had been working on lately because they shared an office, so she didn't try to stop her anymore. Lena, on the other hand, tried to get Damien or Ryan to take her home, but Lola firmly refused. I don't want anyone's fun to be cut in half, she said. Don't worry, Katie, I'm a big girl, and to top it all off, I still have my secret weapon with me. Always. It was quiet at night, and just a few people went by every now and again. Lola whistled as she walked, with streetlights lighting her route. She waited in front of the party hall for about 20 minutes, but when she tried to call a taxi, it didn't work. She kicked the post box in frustration and decided to walk. Her phone's battery had died, so she couldn't use the app to call a taxi. She felt like kicking herself because she had forgotten to bring the charger. If she went back into the party to use someone else's phone, those loofahs inside would surely drop her home forcefully this time and close the party. That was not acceptable. Walking until she saw a taxi seemed like a better idea. At this time of day, only a few buses were running. If she walked long enough, she could even get to one of the nearest bus stops in this god-forsaken rich area. Rich people in the suburbs didn't use buses. Lola made a point to herself not to have her own child's party at places like these that are rich. Hey, Macy! When she was walking by a dark back alley of what appeared like an old, empty building, a harsh voice behind her made her jump. Her happy whistling was cut short and fell into nothingness. She turned around quickly and raised an eyebrow when she saw a young man, probably in his mid-20s, with a rough appearance and tattoos all over except for the middle of his face. He was walking in a way that made him look intoxicated or drugged up, and he had a sleepy grin on his face. She turned around quickly and started walking quickly. Are you deaf? Macy? What was up with his accent? Lola would have asked the guy if the circumstance wasn't a little terrifying. The guy suddenly raced past Lola and stood in front of her, blocking her passage. Yeah, Macy, wait for a minute, I say. She turned around and walked to the right, and he did likewise. When she tried to move to the left, he did, too, and stood in her way. Lola screamed, but the addicted guy was puzzled for a second since it was a scream of anger, not fear. Get out of my way, Lola said. A second went by. He didn't move, he only smiled. Listen, Macy, he said slowly. Listen very carefully. Why would I? Just get out of the path, moron. Who stops a lady in such a way? Shut up. Just shut up. Getting angry, he cut her off. Now be a nice girl, Macy, which you clearly aren't, and give me that bag of yours. Make sure it has your phone and cash in it. Well, here was what she had been dreading from the start. I don't have any cash with me, she answered simply, which was a lie. She opened her lips to say she had misplaced her phone at the party she went to, but the guy beat her in her deception. That's for me to figure out now. Give me your purse that looks like it's about to burst. And the purse did have a big belly because it was full of things that would save her life, like band-aids, antiseptic cream, pain meds, a sanitary napkin, sanitizer spray, wipes, chapstick, a comb, a lighter, a roll-on for mosquitoes, a notepad, a pen, a mini torchlight, some nuts, a banana, and so on. And, of course, there was her phone and a small wallet with some cash and a credit card. She couldn't lose all of these. There is no way somebody could take anything from Lola. So she calmed her face and got ready. The man seemed a little bewildered as he said, "What are you thinking about, Macy? Hurry up. I have plans with my buddies." Lola stepped back and then kicked the air between them. Ay, the guy was so astonished that he took a few steps back. What? Lola stopped to get her breath after all the quick motions. She hoped the guy got the hint. She wasn't a weak girl, and if he believed she was, he was going to get injured from then on. But her hopes were dashed when the guy abruptly sprang forward after a second lengthy blank glance, grabbed her by the arms, and pushed her against the wall behind her. Lola screamed and struggled to get away, but the man held her tighter. "Stop moving, ye!" He pushed her hard against the wall and slipped one hand down to seize her pocketbook. But she fought back hard and fiercely. "Let me go, you jerk!" Lola saw him pull out a knife from his pocket, and it was harder and harder for the guy to keep her down. Her heart raced. He put the knife to her throat and gave her a frightening expression. Then he started to drop his other hand to get her pocketbook, but then he noticed the rise of her bosom, and his gaze changed. His unclean, white tongue came out of his lips to lick his bottom lip. Well, he said. "You seem like a work of art, Macy." She tried to fight back, but he slipped his fingers down her exposed neck to grip her chest. She yelled and pushed him away with all her might. He stumbled back a few inches, and the blade barely scraped her neck. A line of brilliant crimson slowly appeared on her pale skin. She took advantage of the chance she had when he was getting his legs back in balance for a few seconds. As she screamed a battle cry, she reached inside the neckline of her dress and pulled out her dagger. Just as she was about to raise the knife up threateningly, the man hurled himself on top of her. The sound of human flesh cutting through the air was really loud. Lola gasped and glanced down. The man also looked down, and his gasp was louder. She shivered. She had stabbed him. The guy glanced up and stood there, staring at her in shock for a second before his face contorted. He yelled in anguish. "Ay! You crazy peesh! You did it yourself! Oh my God!" She made a frown as she saw blood start to stain the front of his soiled jeans. "I'll kill you!" he yelled. The hurt guy, who was blind with wrath and anguish, raised his fist and flung it at her face, once and then again. Luckily, she ducked each time. It was almost funny until she lost her rhythm. When his knuckles hit her jaw, the pain that went across the side of her face made her vision become fuzzy. She wondered whether she was losing this fight, even if her knife had finally drawn blood. But she heard a man's voice calling her name through the fog. "Lola!" The man's weight suddenly left her. She fell to the floor, hardly awake. A shadow hovered over her. Her blurry eyes saw the face as a flat surface with no eyes, nose, or mouth. It looked rather hilarious. Lola laughed a little bit, but she was still confused. "Ouch!" Lola muttered as she moved on the bed in the hospital's emergency room. "Please be a little more gentle." Ryan moved the ice pack he was pressing against her eye. "Hold still," he shouted angrily. The nurse said that an ice pack would help the bruise go down quickly. There was a bandage over the now clean sliver of a cut on her neck. The cut still hurt a bit. "She didn't tell you to hit me again with the ice pack. If you're that worried about getting bruises, you shouldn't have tried to walk home alone so late at night. Blame it on that fancy neighborhood. There weren't any taxis on the road," she said. "That guy could have really hurt you." He was angry. That guy got hurt worse, right in the middle. He took off the ice pack when he saw her move up straight. "Oh, my knife! Where is it? What if I go to the station and question them about the knife?" Ryan grumbled. "I would strongly suggest against it," he replied, glaring at Lola. "With great care and attention, I made them understand that you acted in self-defense. I think the knife is at the station with them." When Lola opened her mouth to say something, he quickly stopped her by saying, "No way. They could think it's strange that you're asking for it. Don't put your hand any deeper into a crocodile's mouth." Lola gazed at him for a moment before letting out a big sigh and lowering her head. When she started talking, it looked like she was going back in time. "It was my lucky thing, you know, the knife. I still remember when I saw it at a summer fair in a gypsy store. They had all these interesting things, but that knife caught my eye." Ryan said, "A knife of all things?" Lola shrugged her shoulders. "So, I bought it and took it to the church near me so Father Patrick could bless it. And then the story gets religious. It had been with me for so long," she said with a sigh. "I can't believe it's gone. Did you know that you're a very interesting person?" "Hey!" It was as if she had just come back to the present after a lengthy trek into the past. "What did you say?" Ryan responded, "I said you're weird," with a blank look on his face. He was tugging her leg again. She hit him in the upper arm and damaged her own knuckles. Once more. Well, this wasn't the first time she had hit him there just to hurt herself and be astonished by that brick arm. The arrogant smirk on his face made her feel even worse about losing her knife. Beach at Sea Town. That's where Lola wanted to have her birthday party this year. It was a gorgeous beach that wasn't as congested as Felden's. It was 2 hours distant. There were kilometers of sand that met the water, and the black stones were a wonderful addition. She found this spot by chance a few years ago. It was on the road to Damien's mother's and sister's house in his hometown. He had also set up a modest clothing factory in his hometown. Lola looked at her companions and said, "I found this little piece of heaven from the car while we were driving to his town. I told him to stop the car right away so I could see it. I fell in love with this place right away." Ryan remarked, "Did you two used to travel a lot together?" There was an edge to his voice. Lola didn't know whether anyone else saw that. "I've been in this business with him since he started. We're also good friends, even though he's a bit of a jerk sometimes. So, yes, we've had to travel a lot together," she said, shrugging her shoulders. "And we'll have to do it again in the future." Ryan suddenly went into a profound state of contemplation for some reason. Strange. Damien was softly putting the chunks of firewood in front of them. "The sun will shortly start its glorious descent down into the sea. After that, it would be a bit cooler, which is not what it is today. They would need a beautiful fire to make the night brighter, warmer, and happier. And for that, they had carried the wood for the fire in the trunk of Ryan's car." Lena shook Dave in her lap while moving her folded legs on the carpet. The tiny child was slowly waking up. "I remember when these two first brought me here," she said, pointing to Damien and Lola. "Damien had both of my eyes covered with his hands while Lola held my shoulders. I could tell it was a beach because I could hear the waves crashing. But I didn't expect how beautiful it was." Ashley was drinking some water. She started to cough and sputter all of a sudden. Damien and Ryan were hitting Lola's back hard before she could get to her. Ashley was shocked by the abrupt onslaught that was meant to aid her as the poor girl attempted to catch her breath. Lola stared at the two men, going back and forth between them. She said, "Are you two crazy? At this rate, you're going to kill the girl. For heaven's sake, stop." Both men turned to look at Lola with a look of disbelief. Thank goodness they had both stopped doing their comprehensive first aid work. Ryan responded, "Putting pressure on her back should help her." Damien quickly added, "I agree." "Yeah. See?" Ryan nodded. Lola tsked. She can cough, which means it was only a partial blockage. Coughing and deep breathing help her clear her windpipe. Just let her relax, okay? Lena said. There's no need to freak out so much. Ashley was still coughing. I'm all right. Don't worry, she replied between coughing. Damien walked back after looking at her for a long time. But Ryan stayed on his knees next to her. Do you need some water? Ashley shook her head to say no. Damien's gaze abruptly narrowed. Are you going to drown her with more water? He frowned and directed his finger at Ryan, who still had his hand loosely on Ashley's waist. She's hurt there, right under your hand. I suggest you take it off right away. Come on, take it off. Ryan was surprised by how Damien acted, but he did what he was ordered to do. How did she get hurt? He questioned Damien. Ashley was gathering her breath, but her coughing spell had ceased by now. It did correct itself, though. She said she fell down the stairs, Damien said. According to her. Where were you? Ryan inquired again. Lena, Lola, and Dave, who was now fully awake, glanced back and forth between the two. Dave's lips were twitching in subtle ways. His face showed that he was about to weep. I don't follow her around all day, Ryan. We both work in different places, Damien said, dragging his palm over his face. And it happened before your. Ryan pushed. Lola now felt that Ryan had started his legendary game of teasing. And Damien was going along with it so readily. That's crazy. Ryan. Lena sought to scold her childhood buddy in a quiet way. You know it very well. Damien was really angry with Ryan now, with his fists on his hips. Ashley, who is now well, was nevertheless shocked by what was said. Ryan didn't look like he wanted to quit. But that's enough. Lola yelled like a grizzly. Ryan, you need to stop asking questions now. Ryan let out a deep sigh in a dramatic way. My queen, anything you want. The way he said my queen was so unique and special. Was that part of his teasing? Ryan got up from Ashley and went back to sit where he had been before. Dave started to sniff and sniffle all of a sudden, and then he started to cry, which made everyone look at him. There were sounds of damp squelching and a couple of bangs. Lena laughed uncomfortably. Damien, can you please give me your car keys? It looks like baby Dave has pooped, and I need to change his diaper. Sure. In fact, let's go together, Damien answered with a sigh. Ryan's signs of displeasure and their short conversation went away quickly. Allow me to assist you. Lena turned down his help a few times, stating she didn't want to ruin the enjoyment for everyone else and that she would be back soon. Most of the time, though, Damien could be quite convincing. In the end, they all departed together for the car and told everyone they would be back soon after cleaning up and feeding the young kid. Are you okay now, Ashley? Lola inquired with worry. She was sad to see Ashley looking at the backs of the two who were leaving. There were so many feelings on her face that it was hard to tell where they came from or why they were there. Ashley had a complicated tempest in her eyes till she blinked and turned away. She felt close to this girl as much as she did to Lena. Hey? Ah, yes, I'm fine now, Ashley said with a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Ashley always had her camera bag right next to her. She turned toward it, unlocked the chain, and took out her DSLR. Ryan whistled in amazement. It's cool to see women handle tools, gadgets, and gears so well, he said as he watched Ashley neatly connect the huge lens to it. Ashley smiled but didn't glance up from what she was doing. Lola said, that camera looks like a shotgun now. Good job, girl. Are you going to start taking pictures? Ashley nodded. I think I can get a few good clicks closer to the sea, she said, pointing to the distance. Thanks for inviting me to this beautiful beach, Lola. It's quiet, empty, and peaceful. Lola waved her hand and replied, No need to thank you and all that. You're in this circle now. A few minutes later, Ryan and Lola were the only ones left on the mat, with their legs stretched out in front of them on the sand. From a distance, Ashley's body seemed petite. As she gazed through the lens of her camera, the waves crept up to her feet from behind her. Ryan said with a serious face, "You see, Lola. Those two are having problems with everything." Lola drank apple juice from a plastic glass that could only be used once. "You mean the half-namesakes?" Ryan's lips curled into a smile on one side. But his expression still seemed serious. "Yes," he said. "Damien and Ashley are who I'm talking about. Just hearing their names together sounds so strange. Also, they're definitely hiding something. After that scandal spread everywhere, something terrible must have happened for them to make this big decision, this big step." Selene sighed and looked at the woman with the camera, who was slowly traveling down the line where the sea met the land. She seemed quite forlorn. Sometimes what seems wrong actually pushes us toward what is right for us. The pain we feel where we are now makes us move in the right direction. Ryan said cynically, and all of a sudden, "You're a yogi." Lola lifted an eyebrow. "Are you studying Indian culture or language?" Ryan's smile got bigger. "Ashley is from India. I'm trying to figure her out and guess how she will change Damien's life." Lola nodded. "I heard that her father came to the US from Goa. She loves to travel and goes on these yearly tours." "Arg. I know all of these," Ryan said angrily. "And I know you've become a fan of her." "Who wouldn't?" Lola looked like she was in a dream. "She looks like she has wings on her back." Speaking of wings, Ryan suddenly sat up straight and started to unlock the chain on the rucksack he had taken with him. "I have something for you." She frowned as she saw him pull out a large wooden box that was the size of his hand. "What's that? Is there something inside?" "Yes, your gift is inside." Her eyebrows went up. He knew she would give him things, so it wasn't a surprise. Damien, Ashley, and Lena had already given her the gifts right after they laid out the mat and sat down comfortably. Damien got her a beautiful watch with butterfly motifs on it. Lena also gave her a tiny folding mirror with butterfly designs on it, which was a nice surprise. Lola had said, "Your choices freaking again have some similarities," while holding her face. As usual. Ashley had appeared a little upset for some reason. Damien would have been overjoyed to hear such things about Lola. But strangely, he stayed quiet, too. Ashley had given Lola a beautiful antique pattern scarf. It was virtually the same as Ashley's scarf when they shot their first TV ad for their firm a few days ago. Ashley recalled it because Lola had said how beautiful it was. Lola was a little surprised as to why Ryan didn't give her his present along with the others. He now had the package ready for her to grab. "I can say for sure that you will like it." "Why are you so sure?" Lola said as she accepted the package. "You look like you're up to something. You'll see." She opened the metal clasp and raised the lid. She gasped when she saw what was inside. A knife. It was a little, charming pocket knife with strange markings on its body that made it appear harmless. She stared at Ryan with her mouth open. "Time will tell if it works out for you," he remarked. "But that's only if you agree to keep it with you." There is a belief in many cultures throughout the world that giving someone a knife as a gift would end or cut off a relationship. But to Lola, it felt like she had gotten her wings back. She always felt safe when she had a weapon like this with her. And to be honest, she had felt a little embarrassed after losing her knife that night. Her eyes sparkled. She instantly felt a rush of exhilaration. She screamed and ran forward, wrapping her arms around Ryan. He was completely unprepared and gasped. "Thank you, Ryan." She was so delighted that her body shook. "I already feel lucky." Ryan cautiously raised a hand and put it on her back, patting her to make her feel better. Lola heard him laugh and felt the vibration impact her in more than one spot because their bodies were touching due to the hug. She saw Damien pass by them and toward the only woman who was still keeping the wonders of the great sea and the sky to herself. The man didn't even see Lola and Ryan. The sun started to descend, although it would see numerous high points before nightfall. Lola pulled away from Ryan and shyly tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear. The light from the setting sun bounced off the sharp, metal surface of the switchblade as she opened it. Her eyes sparkled. "Right before you go out on a killing spree, you look like a total madwoman, Lola." "Shut up, Ryan." Lola hit him on the arm. But it was like a tree stump she had seen before. She twisted her face as agony surged through her knuckles. Ryan laughed and threw his head back. The sound is carried away by the salty sea breeze, but the echoes stay with Lola. She stared at him without blinking, holding the knife. There were a lot of bad men on Earth. Damien was not one of those people. In fact, he was far from that. He was a little dumb, but he had a good heart. Lola had known Damien for a long time, and he had always been there to aid anybody who needed it. He was always a source of hope and advice for her in practically all of her problems. He had stopped Lena from dying and being sad. Damien cared for his friends and really cared about them, going beyond the usual limits of friendship. That's why Lola couldn't stand seeing Damien so sad. He hadn't come to the office in 2 days, and he told everyone in the chat part of their company's website that he was going to work from home. Work from home? No way. Ashley sent Damien a divorce notice to his office address, and Lena was present when it happened. After returning from Lena's doctor's appointment, they went right back to the workplace to finish the rest of their work days. The sky had once more begun to pour fire on poor Lena Bird. It was tearing Lola's heart, but she tried not to show it too much so Lena wouldn't become scared, and so she would stay focused. Lola was occupied with a rude old lady who wanted to talk to someone higher up, which was her, and said that all the short skirts were too long for her. By the way, the lady was looking at a size area that was completely inappropriate for her. It took Lola a long time and a lot of fake lovely words to get the lady to the right spot. Some folks were just too obstinate. Lola only noticed Damien as he ran out of the store like his tail was on fire. Lola yelled, "Dammy, boy," and hit the locked door. "Open the door right now, or I'm going to kick it down." She thought she heard someone laugh at her from within. He believed she wouldn't be able to go through the door, right? He was correct. "Stop acting like a child and open the door right now," she shouted again. And she knew he was paying attention but not saying anything. He could have thought that if he didn't say anything, she would leave him alone. She would, like hell. If Damien believed this, he still didn't know what kind of person she was. He had only chatted to her a few minutes before and was merely replying to whatever she said or requested. Lola decided that he needed a personal punch in the face to wake him up and get him to do something about the problem. When she was really angry, she moved back from the door and kicked it hard, but she damaged her own foot instead. She rubbed her chin like a real crime leader and thought about what to do. At this rate, her buddy and his wife, who had also become her friend, would be divorced even though they loved one another. This door was in her path. She couldn't shatter it herself, though. She needed someone else's body to do it. Ryan. She thought about Ryan. But she remembered that he was heading back to South Hills today. He probably left for the trip by the time he promised her he would last night. Lola felt the guy was strange. He contacted her last night and said he had a nasty dream about her. That's why he was checking to see if she was okay. The night before that, he contacted her because he was sneezing a lot after sighting a knife while jogging that night. He got the knife because he believed the one he gave her on her birthday was lonely and maybe its soul was reaching out for a buddy. Lola was so scared that she ran to wash her knife with turmeric and salt water right away. She even put it in water for a long period to see if it was breathing. What if Ryan had given her a real voodoo knife? She picked up her phone and called Ryan. He picked up in the first 2 seconds, which was a surprise. Was he sitting there with his nose in the phone? Ryan's voice came through the phone and said, "So, you remember me now?" He sounded a little on the brink. He merely wanted to start a brawl. She questioned him instead, "Where are you right now?" because there were more important things going on. "Almost there," Ryan said, "to the highway that goes outside of Felden." "Why? Do you want me to turn around and tell you something before I go?" Lola raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. "I'm actually outside Damien's door, and he's answering. Ashley sent him divorce papers and left the country without saying anything." "So," Ryan seemed worried when he said, "do you think he might be in the middle of killing himself or something like that?" Lola thought her nose was becoming longer. But she wasn't really lying. In a nutshell, she was just letting someone guess what they wanted. She said, "Please don't call the police or ambulance until we've checked, just to be safe." "Don't worry. I'm already halfway there as I'm speaking to you," Ryan remarked, as the sound of his automobile engine accelerating up echoed through the phone. "That freaking Romeo. I'll be there as soon as I can, babe. Don't worry too much." He hung up. She looked at the phone for a long time after taking it away from her ear. Did Ryan call her babe? What the door of Damien's flat suddenly burst open. Lola wasn't ready for this, so she startled and spun around, almost dropping her phone. "I can't believe you're lying about me right in front of me." "Ah! Dammy boy has finally come into the world." Later, Lola, Ryan, and Damien were all in Damien's living room. Damien sat there with a blank look on his face, staring at a pair of women's slippers near the front entrance. It was easy to figure out who they belonged to. It was evident how shattered the person was from the bags under his eyes, the dry, cracked lips, the crumpled clothing, and the sad droop that covered his whole body. Lola had never seen him like this before, even when he had an infatuation on Lena that didn't work out. Ryan sat next to Lola and remarked, "He looks sad, but not like he's going to do what you said he was going to do." Lola didn't say anything in response. Instead, she paid attention to Damien. Do you know where Ashley went? Damien's face stayed the same. Yes, China. I phoned Rollin, Ashley's supervisor. He mostly plans her yearly travels. I asked him to tell me where she is. She simply left a message saying goodbye and called me right before the plane she was on took off. He stopped in the middle of the sentence, as if he was struggling to hold back his tears. Lola lifted her eyebrows. Then why are you still here, my friend? I know you're hurt, but you should be on the first flight to where she is. Do you really think I didn't? He said with a laugh. Right after I got the papers, rushed home, and got the note, I was on my way to the airport, but... Ryan and Lola both stated the same thing. I went over the speed limit, got chased by the police, hit a lamp post, got a ticket, and my license was suspended for 15 days, he said with a sigh and put his head in his hands. Whoa, Ryan said, looking pleased. Lola was also surprised. That just made me think of a scene from a climactic movie. Damien's voice trembled at the end as he said, but it was all for nothing because I should have known that her flight had already taken off. Lola took out her phone and started typing. No worries, man, she said. We only need you to get on the next available flight. For what? Damien ran his fingers through his hair, shivering with wrath and disgust. The divorce papers she gave me already have her signature on them. The more I look at them, the more I see that she wants to end our marriage and get rid of me. She doesn't love me the way I love her. I agree, Ryan said. Shut up, both of you. Lola yelled at them, staring at them back and forth. When Ryan put his hands up in surrender, she looked at Damien again. And you, how do you know Ashley doesn't feel the same way? Did she tell you herself? She kept scrolling and typing on her phone the whole time. Her behavior says enough. Maybe not, Lola answered, looking sternly at Damien. You have to go and talk to her yourself to find out. Damien didn't fight with her this time for whatever reason. He merely looked at her. Okay. The bell rang. The men only stared at the door, but Lola ran to open it. Jude came in with a luggage. Come on, friend, let's go catch the flight. We don't have much time. Why are you still sitting? Have you fainted with your eyes open? He yelled at Damien, forgetting that they were both professionals. After that, he turned to Lola in the same hyperactive way. Can you help me pick him up and get him on the plane? It'll be hard for me because he's taller than me. Damien angrily said, Lola? What's Jude doing here? Before Lola could say anything. Dammy boy, Lola said with a lot of force. I had both of your tickets confirmed before I got here. I was just texting Jude to tell him to hurry. Well, Ryan said, clapping his fists. You're the best at planning lovers' reunions, Lola. Lola raised a hand to tell Damien to stop when she saw him open his mouth to say something that might be useless and waste more time. You've been acting like a child by not picking up calls, going to the office, or even eating properly the past few days. So, I'm not to blame for making Jude go with you. I'm going to take good care of him, Lola, Jude said as he stood up straight. You don't have to worry at all. Ryan grabbed up his phone and informed Lola, I guess I need to call a taxi now, while Damien was clearly attempting to understand what was going on and was starting to feel better since he was going to chase his wife. Lola shook her head. A taxi driver won't understand how serious the situation is and will make sure we get them to the airport in the next 30 minutes. Damien abruptly sprung up as if someone had poked him. It will only take me 2 minutes to pack and get my passport. Then he went into his bedroom. Ryan remarked, "So, how do you think he would get to the airport now? Have you forgotten that he doesn't have a license for the next 15 days? And you and Jude can't drive but you can," Lola answered with a smile. Ryan was quiet for a while, moving about on the couch and looking up at Lola. He thought about it until it finally hit him. No. No way. Jude was a quiet listener, gazing back and forth and reacting to what they said. Why not? You can drive, you have a car, and you know how bad things are. Ryan stood up and walked closer to Lola. I'm going back to Felden today, he said. Lola put her fists on her hips and lifted her chin. Well, forget that. One of your friends needs you here. Ryan was immediately looking into her eyes, and it looked like he was hiding a smile. Say please, then. Hey, she said, astonished. He said again, you have to say please if you want me to drive. I wouldn't say please to my shadow. Why do you think I would say please to you? He couldn't help but smile. Someday you will, if not today. Lola pinched her brows in confusion. Strange man. At that time, Damien stepped out of the room carrying a duffel bag. Then, in a hurry, all four of them got into Ryan's car and drove to the airport, blasting a song from Fast and Furious. One of the roads had a lot of cars on it. Lola rolled down the window on the passenger side and yelled, "Get out of the way! Were you a sloth in your past life, lazy hag? Move out of the way, or I'm going to shove my knife up your—" All three males in the automobile shivered at the same time. Jude murmured from the back seat, "I feel blood coming out of my ears." Damien stayed quiet, but he looked very impatient next to him. They got to the airport with only 5 minutes to spare before the jet took off. Take care of Dammy boy and girl, Jude, Lola screamed as Jude and Damien were the last ones to go through the gates, which only people with tickets could follow. Good luck, Dammy boy. Bring your girl back home soon. Ryan said, everyone is looking at you, Lola. Do you really need to yell this much? When Lola turned around, she gave Ryan a blank look before leaping forward to hug him without thinking. Ryan was so surprised that he gasped. He mumbled, "Well, that's unexpected," as if he were talking to himself. Lola felt his hands gently move around her. "Hey, you okay?" he inquired with a smile. She moaned and put her head on his chest. "I just want my friends to be happy," she remarked. Damien's love life is so hard right now, and Lena's pain is coming back. I know I seem like a stubborn, Ryan, but I can't stand to see them in pain. Lola's eyes closed as he gently brushed his palm over the back of her head. Ryan responded, "It will be okay, babe," and she didn't pay attention to what he called her. "Let's trust fate and do our best to find answers." Oh my, her liver just moved as she was listening to him. She also got a little wet, which is bad. But you're absolutely right that you're a stubborn thing that you just said. She opened her eyes wide and stopped moving, her face still crushed against his chest. Ryan went on, I actually went to a strange festival in a village where they let their cows drink alcohol and then let them run free. You sound and look like one of those cows sometimes, throwing up on people and hitting them over and over again. Lola looked up at him with a glare. See, he laughed. That's what I'm talking about. I'll show you a cow, all right, she said, stepping back and raising her hand to hit him in the face. But Ryan stopped that punch by holding her wrist and pulling her back into his arms with his other hand. Lola was ready for anything to happen next. He kissed her lips lightly as he lowered his head. It was a brief moment that left her speechless. Lola stared at Ryan with wide eyes as he seemed bewildered. And all of a sudden, everything he had been doing that was strange made sense. Lola went to the electronics store that practically everyone told her to go to for the first time and was shocked by how big it was. She said, looking around with wide eyes and gripping the edge of her long white blouse. She could swear that it didn't appear so enormous from the outside. This made her think of the magic tent from one of the Harry Potter movies. She was already clear what she wanted to get, but she couldn't help but get sidetracked by all the electronics in her way, including a phone, a mousepad, a keyboard cleaning brush, LED lights, an LED mirror, a steam cleaner, an electric shaver, and so on. Women spend a lot of time wandering around stores and malls, but they never buy anything they see. It is more fun to look at thousands of things that you might want to buy in the future. After almost an hour, she finally got to the spy cameras she had planned to acquire before coming here. She was glad to find that there were a lot of different kinds of goods, such pens, wristwatches, sunglasses, vanity bags, and so on. She began to search for anything that may have a small, hidden camera in it. Wow, what a surprise, Terminator, a voice she knew said behind her. Lola glanced around and saw the same smile and two naughty eyes. Ryan was the one. Since the airport incident, she had been staying away from Ryan like the plague. She couldn't stop thinking about the kiss he had so gently put on her lips. The overall significance of all the things he did before that would frequently make her pulse beat. Lola has been out with other people previously. They were all informal, like planning day trips, meals, and movie evenings after getting to know one another, like performing an extracurricular activity or interest. But she never felt like she was in a state of euphoria like this. She didn't know what to do with it. Ryan made her blush as much as he made her upset lately. He was like both her drug and her poison. "What are you doing here?" she questioned, sounding a little annoyed. He playfully remarked, "The same thing you're," and then he stooped down to look at the objects in front of her and read what was written on the part. He lifted an eyebrow in surprise and whistled softly. He rubbed the back of his head and said, "From sharp knives to spy cameras and random things. You're doing really well, Lola. Who are you going after, honey?" "It's just to keep proof of any illegal activities in the store while Damien is away." "And I'm not your honey," Lola spat, even though her cheeks were already starting to turn crimson, showing how much his sweet words had impacted her. She was becoming a loser. Really? He looked like he didn't believe it. Well, she didn't care. She had a bloody job to do. She went back to looking at the items to choose the ones that would work best for her. Minty air started to blow on her shoulder in a steady pattern, making her freeze. Newness. Surprise. She turned her head to see that it was Ryan. Again, bloody. He was virtually breathing on her neck as his eyes were fixed on the spying objects she was looking at. What do you think you're doing? She could even see the small black head on his nose since he was so near. He didn't look at her when he said, I run a security company. So, I'm thinking about getting some of this for myself, she said angrily. You can do it from a respectable distance from me. Are you talking about that same respectable distance we had at the airport? Why did he have to bring it up now? At first, she was shocked because her wrath faded and was replaced with humiliation and a lot of other things. Because she remembered and was standing directly in front of the man from that not-so-distant recollection. In just a few seconds, her cheeks turned red. And in this short time, he had gotten even closer, almost close enough to breathe. She couldn't move and was locked staring at his eyes, which sparkled with something gentle, harsh, or desperate. The ringing of a phone was the last thing that saved them. She looked at the phone and saw it was him. Who's Zen? Ryan was peeking over her shoulder from the rear. Lola made a clucking sound with her tongue because she was angry. Just a friend, she said, as any other answer would have made things too complex. I know almost all of your friends in Felden, but she said, well, nearly. But you surely don't know all of them. She excused herself from him and moved to a few racks away to take the call. Ah, I had a very sweet feeling that you would call. Is that so? Zen's joyful voice came through on the other end. He giggled in a sweet way. And I have a feeling that we're going to have a great time tonight. I hope you haven't forgotten about our date. Did you think I wouldn't come, Zenny? Lola replied in a baby voice, pouting. Of course not. Zen responded quickly, of course not. Lola rolled her eyes and made a frown, but she chatted nicely for another minute before hanging up. Ryan was no longer at the rack of spying goods when she got back. Thanks. She thought. She was a little sad that he didn't even say goodbye before he left. But she wasn't really nice to him either. Ryan had to reschedule his trip back to South Hills since she kept trying to aid Damien. She felt a little bad about it now that she thought about it. But she didn't get why he remained at Felden. Damien departed to make up with Ashley 3 days later. Ryan may have gone back this time. The best option seems to be a bracelet with a tiny video camera hidden between the grey beads. She also had a dress that was the same color. But it cost a much. Lola took the money out of her wallet, and for a brief while, her heart and fingers felt heavy. An emotion that comes up when you spend too much money you worked hard for. Lola sat across from Zen in a fancy Italian restaurant at night. She was wearing a grey crewneck dress that went to her knees and had a side split. The light from the chandelier above her bracelet made it shine. She put her thin finger on it to move the camera closer to Zen so that it could record everything he said and did exactly. They had previously written down a bunch of his sweet phrases. He appeared like a charming gentleman next door in his beige sweater and brown coat. And his smile appeared too real. Lola, on the other hand, already knew who the real man was. Zen exclaimed, "Your beauty is completely out of this world tonight," as the server cleaned up their table. "I heard they have a great room upstairs that faces east and has great views of the river. Do you want to watch the sunrise together?" Oh! But she had done what she set out to do. Lola grinned and played with her phone under the table. She was meant to say something to Zen that would make him wait a few more minutes for her to get there. But as a familiar baritone cleared his throat, she looked to the right. And her eyes got bigger, and her grin faded. Ryan! What was he doing here? He created a face that seemed very artificial when he was surprised. Ryan pushed back his chair and stood up. Oh, wow, Lola, he exclaimed. Didn't expect to see you here. He had on his usual suit coat. He was dressed entirely in black today. So didn't I, she responded with a phony smile and firmly gritted teeth. Zen was looking back and forth at them with interest. Ryan then walked over to Lola's chair and put a hand on the backrest, exactly near to her shoulder. He looked Zen in the eye. The conduct seemed to be quite territorial. Ryan inquired, "Is this your friend Lola?" Well, Lola swallowed and paused. Well, you see, Zen smiled as she started to stutter and grabbed for her hand. Oh, my Lola is so shy. Yes, mister, we're dating. Ryan, on the other hand, didn't appear to want to introduce himself at all. His face got darker. Since when? He asked instead. Zen raised his eyebrows, much like Lola did. Maybe he was jealous? That thought entered her mind. But just now, he was undermining her objective. Ryan! She snarled and tried to hide it from Zen. Ryan didn't pay attention to that. His steely eyes were on the man in front of him. Did you come here to eat by yourself, Ryan? Lola questioned Ryan instead, seeking to change the subject. Yes, Ryan said, his face still grim. I don't date in secret, you see. What the heck was wrong with him? Zen said, you can join us if you want, seeming a little uncomfortable. Ryan pulled a chair back and sat down at their table. It was hard to believe. Zen seemed quite surprised, and Lola stared. Still, one wonderful thing she was starting to understand was that Ryan had come as a blessing that would put Zen's plans on hold until she gave him what he deserved. Ryan said, "Thanks for your offer. By the way, what's your name?" he asked Zen. Zen was starting to look a little unhappy. The poor guy wanted a night of X. He still said, Zen terror. Ryan didn't even let him complete his answer, as if he didn't care for his name. So, how well do you know Lola? Zen let out a huff of a laugh that was both funny and angry. Isn't that a little too personal? Do you know about the knife that she always has with her? Ryan asked instead. Knife? Zen's face showed shock. She stabs people when Ryan, Lola said. But the guy seemed possessed today. I hope you have the guts to keep dating her, because a mad Lola wouldn't think twice about stabbing you. Zen seemed a little uncomfortable, but he smiled back at Lola and reached for her hand on the table. Well, I don't think that would be the case, because I'm looking forward to loving her enough that she won't want to stab me. Oh, Lola pretended to swoon and turned to mush at every word he spoke. Thank God the camera was still recording. The live feed has been going to the right place for a while now. Ryan's hand suddenly slipped between Zen's and hers. He grasped her wrist and pulled it in front of his face, breaking it free from Fran's grip. Let me see this bracelet. Ryan furrowed her brows. It looks like something I've seen before. Isn't it from the spying products area of the electronics shop this morning? All of a sudden, Zen appeared awake. His back straightened. Lola got scared. "Let go, Ryan, you stupid jackass," Lola said as she pulled her hand away from Ryan's. "I want to stab you in the face so badly." And it seemed possible that a demon had taken over him, for Ryan's eyes sparkled. He turned to Zen and said, "See. You see." Ryan was now giving Lola an annoyed look, but she didn't sure what he wanted Zen to do. "Tara, you jerk." The loud voice had all three people at the table turn their heads toward the restaurant door. A brunette woman in her mid-twenties was storming down the steps at the restaurant's entrance. She was stunning, and with her long strides down the stairs and straight posture, chin up, back straight, and fire in her eyes, she looked like a powerful force. Ryan looked perplexed, Lola looked smug, and Zen's face was pale. He looked like he was about to die. The dark-haired woman stormed over to the table and stood directly in front of Zen. "Why you?" Lizzie, Zen stuttered. "How you?" Lola and Lizzie, the brunette, stared at one another for a second before Lizzie turned to Zen and slapped him across the cheek with the back of her slim hand. The slap was so hard that Zen's face swung and he fell back into his chair. "What the heck?" Zen was well in just 2 seconds. He was still sitting in the chair when he glanced up at Lizzie and said, "What's wrong with you? What is this crazy thing?" Lizzie crossed her arms over her chest and scowled at him. "So you have the nerve to talk after getting caught for what?" Zen asked, standing up. "I'm just out here having dinner with my buddies." Ryan lifted his eyebrows. "Friends?" "Hey!" Lola teased. "Weren't you on a date with me? You were even quite happy for us to witness the morning from an upper room after a great night together, honey." "What?" Zen looked like he was in a trance. Lola thought, "What great acting skills." He answered, "I don't know what you're talking about, Lola. We're just friends. And I would never even consider of doing anything so crazy with anybody other than my fiancé, Lizzie." "Wrong," Lizzie responded angrily. "From now on, it's your ex-fiancé Lizzie, you jerk." "Hey, Lizzie. Sweetheart." Zen tried to get closer to her, but Lizzie pushed him back into the chair. "Please don't destroy our tie and doubt my love because of what other people say. I can see it clearly now," he said, glaring at Lola. "She must be trying to break us up." Lola quickly reached across the table and grabbed Zen's hair, shaking his head hard while the guy screamed in amazement. "You say it's a conspiracy?" Lizzie has watched the whole date on live stream. Surely she can understand that the stories about you cheating on her with all those women were as real as the planet itself. Zen was able to get away from Lola with a lot of trouble. Live feed. "Really?" he exclaimed in disbelief, his eyes wide. Lola raised her hand and tapped the bracelet on her wrist. "There's a camera on it," she said. Zen remained silent for a time before saying, "You bish." And then he jumped at Lola with a fist in the air. Lola had already put her hand in the neckline of her dress. She needed her knife. Epilogue. The end. But halfway through, Ryan grabbed Zen's collar and pulled him to a stop. Both Lizzie and Lola screamed as Ryan raised him up and then slammed him back down on the table. The delicate wood of the table shattered in half in the middle, sending splinters flying everywhere. Lizzie and Lola both jumped back in shock. Ouch! That must have really hurt Zen's back. Ryan bent over Zen's moving body with a serene smile on his face. You shouldn't hit women, he said. Lola felt a warm sensation in her chest. It was a mix of a shiver, a tickle, a little respect, hope, and desire, along with a lot of other feelings. Ryan said he would drive Lola home later that night. She couldn't say no because she still felt good from earlier. Lola told Ryan more about the Zen case on the way back. Lizzie, a good friend of Lola's, was an heiress and a businessman who recently fell in love with the scum Zen and got engaged to him to be married next month. Lola had seen and heard Zen with other women many times. The moron was cheating on her friend, and Lizzie was so in love that she never believed anything bad Lola or anyone else said about him. This is why Lola had to go through this operation and share the live feed of the reality of Zen with Lizzie. Now, Zen was successfully exposed. Ryan was a quiet and attentive listener. At times, his facial expressions showed how amazed and astonished he was, which made Lola feel proud. So, you work as a spy on the side? Lola laughed at how he was joking about. Only when I know my friends are in danger. Ryan tilted his head and said, I see. He was instantly lost in thinking. You would be a lively wife, I must be careful. That made Lola bewildered, but then the bewilderment turned into a strange, innate hope. Hey! Ice cream! Ryan's eyes were drawn to an ice cream shop on the side of the road. The front of the store had a happy aspect with pictures of ice cream and cartoon characters that made him want to go inside. It was clear that he was going to stop answering her. 5 minutes later, they were eating their cone ice cream so that no melted drops would fall. Ryan picked butterscotch for himself, while Lola chose vanilla. They were sitting on the hood of Ryan's car, looking out into a parking area between two buildings that opened out to a beautiful, starry sky. Lola's wants and choices were quite simple. What was amazing was how she selected these simple things and how much she enjoyed and celebrated them. Lola thought Ryan had a simple life. But he was really cunning. He liked to act like a riddle to those who weren't ready for it, as if it were all a game to him. Lola was done with the games. You were saying something in the car, Ryan, she said, bringing up the subject he had cleverly avoided. She saw him stop for a second, and then he placed the remainder of his ice cream and the whole biscuit cone in his mouth. Lola was shocked as his eyes became bigger and his cheeks turned crimson from the brain freeze. Are you crazy? Lola punched him right in the back, and he almost fell off the car. Don't think this trick would make me forget, you stupid creature. Ryan started to cough a lot since the ice cream appeared too thick for him to swallow. Lola growled and quickly massaged his back. He stopped coughing after a while and calmed down. Then he got rigid. Lola observed that. He turned to gaze at her carefully, his palm still on her back. He looked straight into her eyes. Her pulse raced. Her whole body was on high alert, and her instincts screamed that something important was about to happen. Lola would usually pull out her knife when she felt this way, which is a common way to protect herself. So, she grabbed for the neckline of her shirt with her hand. Ryan's hand was on hers in an instant. His big hand covered hers. She shuddered when his fingers brushed the area above the neckline of her blouse, which was near her collarbone. He moved closer to her across the smooth hood of the automobile. "You want to know what I said?" His voice was low and seductive. She nodded her head in a way that showed she wasn't sure. "What was going to happen?" "I said," he added, "you would make a lively wife, and I have to be very careful." "Why?" She was out of breath and already knew where this was headed. He merely stopped for a second to look for something he couldn't explain in her eyes. "Because I would be the husband of that lively wife." She took a deep breath. He gently touched her face with his thumb. She swallowed the spit that had built up in her mouth. He was quite close. Too close. What if he kissed her right now? "How could you say anything like this so easily?" she said, out of breath. He hummed like he was in a trance, and then he sighed and got a little serious. "What's going on with Lena again has made me realize that life is too short and unpredictable not to follow your dreams," he said, looking at her softly and tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "And you've been my dream, Lola, for a while now. Your crazy, foolishness, and boldness have won me over. So, I'm officially asking you out now. Let's be together." At the conclusion, Lola was speechless. She couldn't stand to look at him any longer, so she threw herself into his arms and covered her face in his chest. Lena's fight to stay alive in the past and even today helped everyone around her recognize how important it is to remain alive. He put his arms around her right away. She could feel him sighing with relief on her cheek. He massaged the back of her head and told her to look at him, but she shook her head and didn't do it. Ryan chuckled and said, "Are you shy?" She was, though. She murmured him in a way that made her angry. Then something clicked in her mind along with all of his beautiful words. He had said some other things too. She looked up with a blank face and said, "Okay, I'll go out with you. I can't predict if it will lead to a good relationship in the future, though." Ryan's face brightened up when he nodded in agreement. But then he grimaced and said, "I'm glad, but I can't help but notice that your face doesn't match your words." She said with a snarl, "That's because you called me crazy and stupid." Ryan arched an eyebrow and said, "I didn't lie." So she had the nerve to punch him in the stomach, which took him by surprise. He took a deep breath and hissed, "You're quite a force to be reckoned with." He couldn't finish his sentence because she grabbed his collars and pulled him in for a long kiss on the lips. His muscles relaxed, and his arms went around her thin body. Before they knew it, the kiss turned into a kiss where their tongues touched and their souls mixed. A few minutes later, Lola put her forehead on his chin and breathed deeply. Her eyes were closed, and she felt quite out of it. Ryan said in a low voice, "I didn't think you would agree to keep dating me so easily, given how arrogant and fiery you are." Lola's mouth turned up into a sad smile. "I've learned how important it is to take advantage of opportunities to bring happiness into our lives, to forgive to ease our own heavy emotions, to take a break and do what makes us happy, to enjoy a little sun, moon, and rain, and to find and hold love and friendship in its graceful form because our time on earth is limited. There's no time to waste." Ryan and Lola both understood where she had learned such things. Lena was back in the situation where she had to cling on to any straws and sticks she could find around her to keep from being drawn into death's door. Ryan sighed and pulled Lola closer to him. "I will never take this for granted," he whispered to her. It was a voice that nestled deep in her heart.